Alright, so today's CEO job review is on velocity. Now this is one of my favorite ones because it's not only easy, but it pays well, and I like the challenge or the tension behind this job because you have to keep it above a certain speed, and I like the fact when someone chases you, you gotta deal with that too. But yeah, we'll go over all that other stuff later. So, in order to unlock the job, you need to own two things, of course, the office and the vehicle warehouse. Once you own those two, you can buy the vehicle, of course. Depending on your status, it could be cheaper or more expensive. The prices range from 2.8 million to 3.8 million. It's better to get the discount, of course, like everything else. But it's kind of worth the purchase. I like the vehicle itself for the personal version, but I just don't know why they had to nerf the rocket boost recharge, but whatever. Anyway, so the way the job works is when you initially start it, of course, you're given that 3-minute window to get inside the vehicle before the job starts without you. And you know, actually a good question too is, I wonder what would happen if you let that 3-minute window count down and the job starts. Would the bomb activate? Would it start, would it blow up on its own? What would it do? I'm not sure. But you shouldn't take 3.5 minutes, or 3 minutes rather, to get to the vehicle. So just make sure you're fairly close to where it could spawn. When you do get inside the vehicle for the driver's seat, you're given a very short, safety timer before the bomb activates. You're given a short window to get the vehicle speed over 60 miles an hour before the bomb activates. And the way it works is, once the bomb activates, you have to keep the vehicle above 60 miles an hour. The beauty of the job is you can drive wherever you want, however you want, as long as the speed is over 60. Now, 60 miles is not hard to fucking go over, so don't think that, oh man, it's gonna be tough. No, not at all. Especially since you have the booster ability, it's really fucking easy to keep it above 60. But you do want to be careful how you use the boost meter, because one tip that I will recommend is don't spam it, because you want to save it for an emergency. Like if somebody hits you or a car turns in front of you or something, right? You want to save it for an emergency. Don't spam it, because if you, see how I hit something here? You want to make sure that you have the boost ready so that you can use it to get over 60 before the fucking bomb detonates. And that's what you want to be careful of. If you spam it, then you may not have it ready when the detonation meter goes up, and then by the time you get it ready, boom, you're already blown up. So even though it charges fairly fast, you still want to be careful how you use it. The job lasts for 10 minutes, and obviously your objective is protect the fucking thing. It doesn't tell you protect it, but that's kind of common sense, right? Protect the Voltic and just keep it above 60 miles an hour. Now, other players are given a slightly different objective. Not destroy it, but cause it to explode. And that's kind of one of the interesting bits about this one, is it doesn't, like I said, doesn't tell you destroy it. It tells you to cause it to blow up. Now, the way you can do that is a couple different ways. If you were to cause it to blow up, you could take an aircraft and just send missiles after it, or you could take an oppressor. Anything with missile launchers you could send after the Voltic, and that'll throw off the balance and physics of the Voltic, so it could make it harder to balance and get back on 4 wheels to get over 60. There's certainly other ways you could do it as well. Explosive cannons could do it, and that sort of thing. But yeah, there is that to worry about. So personally, for me, I don't really have a whole lot of attackers for this one, because nobody really wants to bother to put in the effort. But, oh, it is what it is. Now, let's say you have a teammate with you. What can they do, or what are they told to do? Well, if you're the teammate, basically you're outside the Voltic, you're given a rather unique objective. Instead of simply just protecting it, you actually have an optional objective of collecting these checkpoints. Now, what I just collected earlier is a checkpoint, and what it does is it reduces the time on the mission by 20 seconds. Now, the catch is they put the checkpoints so far away that it does take a bit of commuting time to actually get to them. But they are extremely helpful, especially if you're being pressured by other people trying to blow the Voltic up. And you may have seen that in one of my previous uploads, where I had teammates grabbing checkpoints, and as a result, it made the mission so much easier. And it probably saved the job too, just by having those checkpoints grabbed. So even though you can do this by yourself, and the mission itself by yourself, you do actually want to have a teammate with you. That way they can grab these checkpoints and essentially cut time off the mission. Now again, it does reduce by 20 seconds. Whoever's in the Voltic will not see the checkpoints, and even if they happen to run over where the checkpoint is, they cannot actually acquire it. They don't actually collect it. So it is up to your associates and teammates to grab the checkpoints themselves, while whoever's in the Voltic protects it, protects the car themselves. And so I do happen to like that objective, or the side optional mission objective anyway. Yeah, again, you want a teammate for that, so, and you can only do it with a teammate. Otherwise, if you're by yourself, you just have to worry about the main thing, just keeping it above 60 miles an hour. Now, there are some interesting tips and tricks as to how you can defend this son of a bitch. If somebody chases you in, say, a Karuma or any kind of supercar, that's fairly doable, actually. All you have to do is, you could just C4 them, since you have access to that. They can't shoot you through the back, so you don't have to worry about getting shot with something. And even with FMJ rounds, I don't think that works. I don't think you can get shot through the back with FMJ rounds. Now, let's say somebody chases you with a Hydra, a laser, or anything that flies with an explosive cannon, or close, right? How can you defend yourself from that? Well, there's a couple different ways you could. Your first option is drive as fast as you can, right? So maybe spam the boost meter, but maybe be careful at the same time. Don't just mash the L3, but kind of pace the boost meter so that maybe you don't waste it. But at the same time, you use it to avoid missiles and stuff. The second way that I found, which is my favorite method, and this works particularly well for Hydra since they can't really fly in tunnels, is actually be in a tunnel and just make circles. Now, this is extremely delicate and very difficult to do. Now, I don't mean like it's impossible. What I'm saying is, you have to really get used to the Voltic and the speed meter and the boost meter to really make this one work. Because if you mess up even in the slightest bit, you could cost the job. So you really want to learn how to do it, because it really does help, and it could actually save your job. Now, this one I had 2 Hydras for, and I chose the wrong tunnel, but then again, this was the closest one, so I didn't really have much of a choice. But in this tunnel, it does work. What you want to do is, you want to drive the Voltic and make sure you don't hit any traffic, right? Make sure you're aware of that. But when you want to make your U-turn, I found that using the handbrake works more than hitting the brakes for, like, say, the L2 button. So when you do that, you are going to slow down quite a bit. If it does get to the point maybe the detonation meter is halfway full, try to use the boost meter, but if you are absolutely comfortable, you can fill it up, or the speed meter, in time. Don't worry about it. Another thing too is, you want to try to keep the speed meter as maxed out as possible before you make the U-turn, because you don't want it to be just at 60 and then have it degrade too far down, because then the detonation meter might fill up before the speed meter hits the minimum mark. So you really want to keep an eye on that. If you really are not sure that you can fill the speed meter back up in time, use the boost. Just make sure there's no traffic in the way, because obviously you're going to make it even worse, and you probably will mess it up doing that. And the best tunnel to use for this trick is the Fort Zancudo tunnel, because it is a lot wider. That definitely makes it a lot fucking easier to use. The only thing, though, you have to be careful of is, it is possible that Hydras can't actually descend low enough so that they can see you and hit you. Same goes for helicopters as well. It is wide enough so that people can't see you. Another thing to keep in mind as well is, even with the tunnel I was using, and we'll just call that the McKinsey Field tunnel, that one you do have to be careful of as well, because I've seen helicopters, actually I've seen somebody descend low enough to where they could get a shot at me, and you don't want to do that, right? So if that happens, you want to make sure you don't go near them and don't get close enough to them. So that's personally one of my favorite tricks to use. You probably could even use a tunnel like this one as well. I don't know how well that'd work out, but I'm sure it'd be more than doable. And I only don't use it because it's a turn, or it's a big curve, so I don't really think it works well, since turning kind of reduces your speed. So try to use a straight tunnel, one that maybe people don't have easy access to, or maybe one that takes a long time to get to. Again, the McKinsey Field one works great. It's smaller, it takes a little bit more skill, but it does work. The Fort Zancudo tunnel certainly works the best because it's wider, you have more room for error, but you still have to be careful of how you make your runs and your turns, right? Another tip too I would recommend is, if you're having a teammate with you, make sure they can actually protect you as well. You could have multiple teammates, maybe one for grabbing checkpoints and one for protection, but yeah, I would recommend having someone protect the thing as well, if you have attackers. Otherwise, if you don't, there's really no sense in it, because you could be grabbing checkpoints, instead of protecting them against no threat, you know what Let's see, is there anything else I could recommend for the job? I don't really think there's much else to recommend, actually, now that I think about it. For the most part, it's fairly straight up. I mean, all you have to do is just drive. I mean, there's no specific route you have to take or any specific direction. Oh, wait, I do have one more tip. Use the fucking freeways. That's the best way to do it. I do not recommend taking this thing in city streets or dirt trails. That is not a good idea. Now, in my last video that you might have seen when I did Velocity, I did use the dirt because I didn't really have a choice. Because I did have someone follow and attack me. And at that point, I slipped up and I hit the boost too early or something. And I went into the hills and I happened to be on the train tracks. Now, if something like that does happen, yeah, take the train tracks because it does work. But what I'm saying is, don't do it by choice. Do it because you're forced to. You know what I mean? So, yeah, the freeway is honestly the best way to do it. It's the easiest way to keep the speed meter maxed out. It's very hard to hit something unless you fucking swerve into it. If you do come across any turns, any sharp turns or anything like that, of course, do slow down. Don't feel like you have to floor the fucking gas pedal the whole time. Just, ease off the gas pedal, maybe even apply some brakes, not the handbrake, but the other brakes. And you'll be able to get around the turns just fine while keeping the speed over 60 miles an hour. But, yeah, don't take the city streets, only use the city streets just to get on the freeway. That's what I personally do. I don't use the streets as a way of, doing the job because it's too dangerous, right? You have too many cars all over the place. You have the intersections to worry about. Sometimes people turn into you, and if you come across any players, they might feel more inclined to come after you because you're in the streets and it's more accessible to come get you. So I don't recommend doing that. Otherwise, that's really it for this job. It's definitely one of the better jobs. I classify it under the easy category. Even if you have an attacker, I still classify it under easy because if somebody does hit you with a missile like you saw earlier, as long as you know how to turn and balance the car correctly if it's in midair, you should be okay. Now, if you fucking got exploded and maybe you flew into the water or something, maybe into a cliff, yeah, you're gonna have issues, but otherwise I think you'll be more than okay. The job does pay you 35 grand, which is the same exact amount that Fortified will pay you, so it is definitely worth doing, especially for 10 minutes of work. I definitely advise doing this one. So otherwise, I think that's really it for this video. I'll try to get cracking on the other Import-Export CEO job reviews because I need to. I'm 6 months overdue. So better late than never, but I hate to take this long. Anyway, that's really it for today. I don't have anything else major to add on this one. But if you did find the review helpful in any way, by all means, let me know. Like the videos. And even a subscription would be appreciated. I don't like begging for likes and subs, but I encourage it. So I would, appreciate a good subscription or a good rating. Anyway, that's really it for today, so I don't have anything else major to add.